What's going on, everybody? Shadowman number 9 here, and today we're going to be looking at Punisher issue number 1, the brand new series that's going to redefine the Punisher in the same way that Born Again did for Daredevil. How did it do that? I don't know, because I didn't read it, but this new Punisher series is going to give Frank purpose. See, apparently he's been a character without purpose for a long time, and so long as you have purpose, people can no longer use your symbol for hate when taking an extreme tour of political buildings. Issue number 1 just came out March 9th. I was literally counting down the days and called my local comic shop to make sure they got the issues in, which they did, and they also apprised me that they had variants for sale, which tickled my taint ever so slightly. Now, I couldn't get out to the shop on Wednesday, but I did go the very next day and picked up issue 1 as well as 3 out of the 4 variants because I'm a collector, and also a hypocrite. I know I've done nothing but trash talk this entire series, and then here I am buying all the fucking variants like they're going out of style. Also, I only bought 3 out of the 4 variants because in the span of 24 hours, somebody bought the only copy of the 4th variant that the store had, which seems like a huge oversight for a comic shop, but I digress. So now, I must find the consumer who took the 4th variant, destroy them, and then claim the variant for myself. But in the meantime, let's take a look at issue number 1. We open with a couple of panels describing the aftermath of the New York Central Park shootings that took the lives of Frank Castle's family. We're experiencing the event through the perspective of Frank Castle, who has also been shot, with all of the speech coming from bystanders. The book uses bystanders to provide exposition regarding the shooting. Some comment on the event itself, while others call the police and describe what's happening to the police. EMTs soon arrive and pronounce the children dead at the scene. Frank's wife Maria has a weak pulse and she's in critical condition. As the EMTs try to save Maria, we witness Frank opening his eyes, coming to. The EMTs, in complete amazement, see Frank trying to get up to be with his wife, who eventually dies in front of him. The EMTs then try to subdue Frank, keep him calm until he eventually slips into unconsciousness, while the EMTs are begging him to stay with them and tell them who he is. Now, I don't know who the artist was who did the art for the opening panels. I tried looking through the book, but it doesn't say who did what specifically. I really wasn't a fan of the art. Personally, it was very pop art, kind of like Andy Warhol to me. It seemed a little out of place and off-putting for a Punisher comic. And you know, there's actually a specific comic book I'm trying to think of that reminds me of this kind of art style because it's very similar, but I just can't think of it at the moment. Luckily, this art style only exists in the flashback. Oh shit, you know what? It could have been done that way to establish a dream sequence. Ah, yeah, see, now that makes more sense to me. I can definitely get behind that. The next page we turn to exposes a huge Punisher collage featuring Punisher pictures from all different eras and story arcs. Punisher Max, Punisher vs. Daredevil, Punisher and Spider-Man, it's all there and it's a really cool page to look at. On the page are text boxes that read Frank Castle is the Punisher in. Then on the next page we get the title reveal, Punisher, the King of Killers, Book 1, Chapter 1. The story then continues in present-day Greece, where we follow a terrorist organization known as the Apostles, who wear business suits and gladiator helmets. Stylish. The Apostles are taking inventory for upcoming orders from all kinds of dirtbags, including a Hydra cell and the hate monger in Minnesota. It was kind of funny to watch them go through their inventory because every time they took note of what they had, they started out with blessed be these. So I'm reading the comic and the lead guy is like, blessed be these 5,000 rounds of adamantium tipped bullets, and blessed be these 30 cases of banner cannons, a weapon which they describe as a gamma powered minigun, almost like as if the Hulk was a machine gun. And it's hard to tell if these guys are serious or if this is just the script that comes with a job, like when you work at a call center and you gotta follow that script that makes you sound like a robot or somebody from India. Peggy.
Thank you for calling USA Prime Credit. My name is Peggy.
As we follow the Apostles going through their warehouse taking inventory for the orders, all of a sudden it's mentioned to us, the readers, by the characters in the comic that there has been shooting. One of the Apostles reaches for his ear as if to signal that he's listening to a radio transmission, and in this radio transmission he hears that shots have been fired and the front gate is under attack. Now all of the other Apostles are confused by this, because to them it's like impossible. And the one Apostle receiving the transmission explains that the front gate has visual, and just before the transmission was cut, they said that the attacker was none other than the Punisher. So the Apostles start to scramble. They all grab weapons. One Apostle preaches to the others that anyone who interferes with the Holy General's missionaries shall be sacrificed like dogs on the pyre, and all of this other pre-game war stuff. And as he's preaching, the Apostles ready up. They've got their weapons locked, cocked, and loaded and ready to
cry havoc and let slip the hogs of war.
Dogs.
of war.
Whatever farm animal of war, Lana, shut up.
When all of a sudden the lights go out. In one panel of the comic, we see all the apostles standing there in the dark with what I assume is the banner cannon in hand. This panel is followed by the same panel, only this time adding sounds of distress and red spurts of blood, indicating that they've just been killed. The lights then come back on to reveal one lone survivor of the apostles whose gun hand has been severed, and standing before him is the newly redefined Frank Castle, the King of Killers. With the apostle in disbelief, Castle shifts his eyes, focusing in on him, and simply asks who he works for. A banter between the two, pretty much along the lines of, you don't know what he'll do to me if I tell you, and then you don't know what I'll do to you if you don't. That sort of thing starts taking place. And in the end, Castle tells the apostle, if you're not going to tell me who you work for, then just pick up your gun. So the apostle follows Frank's orders, picking up his gun with his one working hand. Suddenly, we see that Frank, with his newfound ninja speed, has cut the throat of the apostle with his katana. As the lone apostle chokes on his own blood, Frank turns and admits that he's still getting used to his new weaponry, and then thrusts the katana into the back of the apostle, driving it through his chest. Now, as all of this is going down, a red text box appears in the panels, which you learn later is exposition from the archpriestess of the hand. In her narration, she proclaims that our world is a rabid one, and inflicting pain on one another is mankind's earliest form of communication. Thus, the hand was born as prophets of suffering who would seed the red word of the beast in fertile soil. I don't know where the hand gets their fortune cookies from, but that's some pretty good shit. We see Frank wipe the blood from his katana and then command a barrage of hand ninjas hiding in plain sight to gather all of the weapons and burn everything else. Now, what's funny about this, you have the Hand, who are supposed to be the world's best assassins, and Frank goes in by himself, one man, and destroys everyone, and uses these ninjas as peons to handle all of the bitch work. Frank and the ninjas return to the Hand citadel deep within the Forgotten Forest, where he speaks to the Archpriestess about the mission. She welcomes Frank back, dubbing him the new High Slayer, and prays that the will of the beast had been realized in the most exquisitely gruesome fashion. Frank does not share her enthusiasm. In fact, he acts kind of like Wolverine does with the rest of the X-Men. He's very short and straight to the point. He tells her that he was unable to find out who the Apostles of War are working for, and to have all of their agents keep an eye out for more shipments. Then the Archpriestess tells Frank that his blade smells wet and that the Swordmasters will be very pleased. I actually kind of love this character. Every time she talks, I think of Jane Curtin's character Primat from Coneheads. She's so odd, and to me it's very humorous, which I can't tell if that's what the writers were going for or not. Either way, she's great. She then asks Frank if he's been employing the single stroke technique that the Swordmasters have been teaching him, and Frank replies asking the Archpriestess if the Hunters are back. So in the next few panels, we then see the Archpriestess escorting Frank to this very blank white tarped area, or at least it looks like tarp. It might actually just be like really fancy curtains, kind of like an open ballroom of sorts. But in this ballroom are regular people bound and gagged, whom the Archpriestess reveals to be murderers and rapists and child abusers, a bounty of sinners for Frank to punish. She tells Frank that his ninjas would be very proud to dispense of these sinners for their High Slayer in whatever torturous fashion he so desires, and Frank promptly replies, no. In more narration from the High Priestess, she mentions that she always makes the offer every day knowing that he will decline, and it is a fine example to the others of the power of his dedication. He is the Punisher. He swings the sword. She further goes on to mention that Frank Castle is still adjusting to his new role, although in many ways it's not an adjustment at all. Because of the role he's played over the years, he has become the world's most accomplished mass murderer, and all she has done was bring him his crown. Now, during this bit of narration, we cut back to weeks earlier where we see Frank entering his safe house wearing his classic Punisher attire, and unbeknownst to Frank, the Archpriestess and a large group of hand ninjas are waiting for him. Now, the way the book read to me is that Frank is somewhat tied to a prophecy, or seems to be the Hand's chosen one, the king of killers. And the Archpriestess has come to Frank to bestow these gifts upon him from the beast, but before she can, a trial is required to prove that Frank is no doubt the one they seek. So the ninjas battle it out with Frank, and Frank's just demolishing these ninjas. He's blasting through one or two at a time, and at one point he gets thrown into a maintenance closet where he pulls out a fucking chainsaw and just starts skinning asses raw like he was Fred Durst. Just to put into perspective like how fucking ridiculous this battle is, in this little New York apartment, Frank actually keeps C4 hidden around the place, and at one point grabs the trigger and just blows it. Fucking hand ninjas are flying through the air, some are catching fire, half of the apartment's blown up. Meanwhile, the archpriestess is witnessing this entire thing and confesses that she raised most of these warriors, like these men and women might as well have been her children, and she's watching as Frank is mercilessly killing them in droves, and she doesn't care. She is completely enamored by Frank's bloodlust and endurance. So then the battle finally comes to an end. Frank is beat to hell. He's got shurikens sticking out all over him. He's bloody and bruised, and the archpriestess approaches Frank with a tray of daggers and yells, "Magnificent!" Now tell me, does one of these belong to you? It's fucking so... And she's so weird. She's so odd, but I love it. And Frank, the manly man buff dude guy that he is like, "Fuck no, but this does," and he pulls out a handgun, aims it directly at her, which doesn't faze her one bit. She's gone through this world and seen some shit. No, she already knew that he would say that and has something for Frank that may change his mind. She then apologizes to Frank for intruding, but a test was required. Unfortunately for Frank, it was not open book. Regardless, she knew Frank would pass, and from the broken bodies laying around them, it's safe to say Frank passed. She continues to assure Frank that they are not there as assassins, but saviors. And in the comic, we see the shape of a woman being brought into the room by two ninja escorts. Frank's eyes widen with tears starting to form, and the archpriestess asks again, "Do you see anything that belongs to you?" So now back in present time, we see Frank disrobe and get into bed where a blonde naked lady currently sleeps. She awakes to see Frank and tells him that she's missed him. In the last scene of the comic, the woman is then revealed to be Frank's dead wife, Maria, alive again. So one of the things that I found interesting about Maria's reveal is that if we look closely, we can see that she's been brought back to life, however not restored to full form, as she still harbors scars from where the bullets had hit her. Now usually in comics and movies, people are brought back and restored to how they were before the incident that took their lives. It's not often that we see people brought back to life with evidence of such injuries or damage that had taken place. And to me, if you were going to ask the question, is this really Maria or is it a clone or something like that, I think having those signs of her past trauma present on her person really plays in favor of her possibly being the real deal. So now, what did I think of the comic? It's a very standard first issue. Tom, Bravoort, and Marvel have really hyped this series up as being an absolute bloodbath, and if that's truly the case, then the first issue is pretty tame. Not to say that the battle in Frank's apartment wasn't badass or the decapitation of the sinners didn't look good, but like I said, it's a very standard first issue. Lots of introduction and exposition to set the story for future issues. Probably the most interesting thing about the issue is Maria's return, so I'm pretty curious to see if the Beast brought back his whole family or if it's just Maria that's been resurrected. And I can't recall, if anybody knows the answer to this, please let me know in the comments below. I love to learn, I love to read new stories, but I don't know if anybody's actually toyed with this concept before in other Punisher stories, bringing back his family or bringing back Maria. So if you guys know if they've done this before, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to take a look at it. But if they haven't messed with this concept before, then it's definitely got the originality factor behind it, and that sets them up to go many different ways with the rest of the story. Of the entire issue, my three favorite things about it is, first, the archpriestess. She's kind of creepy, but funny. I fucking love her style. Secondly, I love that even though Frank is now working for the Hand, he still punishes the guilty. He uses the Hand to go out and track down criminals so he can execute them. And it's a small detail, but without that detail, it would probably compromise the character. If he's not punishing the guilty, then he is not the Punisher. Now at the same time, I first read this and I thought to myself, oh, that's awesome. He's got the Hand picking out bad guys for him. He's still punishing the guilty. That's awesome that they put that in there. But it does beg the question, did Frank pick those people or did he have the Hand go out and track down criminals? Because I feel like it would be a bit out of character for Frank to rely on someone else's judgment that this person or that person is guilty. There's always been this little detective element to Frank. Frank needs to be sure that they are guilty before he can issue punishment. Now sure, maybe the Hand are capable of picking out convicted criminals, repeat offenders who openly show their colors, but still, why would Frank leave it to chance? Last but not least, the battle in Frank's apartment safe house place was pretty fucking awesome. I loved watching him use anything and everything from a chainsaw to a 50 cal to take out the enemy, and also seeing the priestess just not give two shits about her surrogate children dying was just the maraschino cherry on top. So that's pretty much it, guys. The first issue was just standard first issue stuff. Hopefully the second issue will show us a little more, maybe have some better action sequences, but that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching.